Okay, happy Friday, everyone. Thank you. A couple announcements before we go over homework. First announcement is I tentatively have planned on my lesson plans that your Chapter 1 test will be Wednesday or Thursday next week. So just a heads up for you guys. Monday, we should have that in stone depending on how today goes, but Wednesday or Thursday. Part of that test is no calculator. The other part, you may use a calculator, which again, I'll explain in more detail probably Monday or Tuesday. Charles? Right behind you on that window seal. Or there, that's fine. Doug, is this on topic? Go ahead. On the home, are you talking about the homework? Yeah, every problem's worth half a point. You will get all your points back if you correct them correctly. Okay, but you only have one time to make corrections. Okay, Annalise. Take a guess. What part do you think is no calculator? Can you try to guess? Good. Adding integers? Yep. Well, and what we're going to do today and tomorrow, or not tomorrow, not coming tomorrow, today and Monday, multiplying and dividing integers as well. Mary was going to say that. So that's the only part. Okay? Emma M. To stay in this class? So to stay in this class, what I say is you need to have a B+ or higher. Okay? Which means you should have a really good B or higher to move on. So, yeah, but technically you guys, you should all have 88 or 89% or higher. Okay. So from yesterday, we did mean, median, mode, and range. In your own words, what is mean? What is mean, Justin? Good. Good job. Average of the group of numbers. What is the symbol for mean? What's the symbol? Alyssa? Good. X with a line above it. Briar, what is median? Good. The middlemost number. Adam, how do we find median if there's an even set of data points? Good. Take the two middlemost numbers, add them, divide by 2. Okay, what is the mode? Emma M. Good. The number that occurs most often. What is range? What is range, Alex? Good. The difference between the highest and the lowest. Out of those 4 terms, what 3 of them are measures of central tendency? Oh, lots of you. Oh, I'm impressed. Sean? Good. What is the other word for range? Measure of, anyone remember? I said this very briefly yesterday. Another word for range is, Annalise? Close? No? Because it does begin with a D, though. Go ahead, Annalise. That's okay. D-I-S. Emma H? Nope. Back? Nope. Dispersion. So measure of dispersion. You do not need to know that. I'm just asking you a hard question. Range is just the distance between highest and lowest number. Okay, number 1. Charles, can you read us your answers straight down for number 1, please? Yep. Yep. Great. Great job. Don't forget mode. There can be no mode. There can be 1 mode. There can be 2 modes. Number 2, Briar. Ooh. Try the range again. Did you do 81 minus 52? Okay, that's the problem. Good job. 29. Okay, number 3, Annalise, straight down. We'll come back to questions after we go over all the answers. Good. Good. Good job. Yeah, and Annalise, since you weren't here the first week, typically we'll go through all the answers first, and then I'll say, all right, what questions do you have? Okay, just so we can all check our answers first. And don't forget, guys, if you miss something, change it, cross it off, just so you know what the right answer should be. Okay, Matt, number 4. Stay mode again. And? I thought you said 29 at first. Good job. So there's 2 modes. The reason I had you repeat, for some reason I thought you said 29, but there's 2 modes. Okay, but you didn't mean to. All right, so I'm not going crazy on this Friday. Okay, oh man, forgot to block that. Number 5, Mary.
Mean is 17. The median is 15.5. There's no merit difference.
Great job. All right, number 6. I'll just read this one. Mean is 2.8. Median is 2.8. There's no mode. Range is 3.1. Number 7, Donatus, letter A. Okay. Emma M, letter B.
The mean is 40. Median is 41.
The mean, you're off a little bit. You said 40? Yeah, you're off. I think you might have forgotten a number. Justin. Nope. Did you guys forget there was a 46 and 52 on the second line?
No, I did not.
Okay, I don't know. I'm trying to see what you guys did wrong. Doug, what did you get for the median? Or sorry, I meant the mean. Good. 41.25. Sean, the median. Good. Zach, the mode. Good job. So Emma M, what did you miss? Do you know? Okay. Check on your calculator. I'm just curious. Charles? What's funny about number 6?
There's no mode, but if you added another 2.8,
Yeah.
the mean
And that happens sometimes.
because how can the numbers are all
Exactly. Yeah. And you'll analyze that more if you take AP statistics your junior or senior year. You guys will do a lot of analyzing with these terms using measures of central tendency for actual data. So yes, good call. Alex. All right. So any questions on 1 to 4? Annalise, what number? Okay, so you have to put them in order from least to greatest and take the middle 2 most numbers, add them, divide by 2. Did you do that? There's an even set of data points. There's 6 numbers. So you should have used 60 and 75. Okay, so you're good now. Okay, just make sure you remember if it's an even set of data points, take the middlemost numbers, add them, divide by 2. Emma M. Okay. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that happens sometimes, especially when you're trying to type quickly. Just double check on a test or quiz to make sure you're double checking. Charles. How? You can go back. Exactly right, because you could actually see what you typed in. A point for what? Yeah, I don't know. No, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, I know. You can go back. That's kind of like what he was talking about. It's very neat. Mary? Yes, you may. Any questions on 5 through 7 on the homework? All right, I need everyone to open up your homework packet to page 21. Open up your homework packet to page 21. Close your calculator. Homework packet to page 21. Close your calculator. 1.7. Okay, so our objective for today is to talk about multiplying and dividing integers. We've spent a lot of time adding and subtracting integers. So now we need to discuss, all in one lesson, well, what are the rules with multiplying and dividing? So anyone have any idea, how do we know whether a product or quotient is positive or negative? Justin, how do we know? You don't, but that's a good guess. Good guess, though. But no, it's actually easier on this. Mary? Nope, not always. Good guess, though. Emma? Yep. Regularly. I know.
And if they're different signs, we multiply it into two, and you divide it.
Yep. You're right. That's okay. Okay, you're getting there. You're closer. Doug? No, not if it's not related to this. Go ahead.
But if you do the decimals, and could you that start with 1? Could you multiply and divide them?
That's chapter 5. So hold that thought. Okay, so we're going to go right to multiplying roles. Here's what we do, okay? And this should, oh no, we'll keep it like this. Okay, so multiplying integer roles. If there's an odd number of negative signs, the answer is negative. So underneath where it says multiplying integer roles, this is rule number 1. So go ahead and put a little number 1 next to it. Leave space for 3 of these. If you're multiplying integers and there are an odd number of negative signs, the answer is negative. For example, -1 times 3 is -3. For example, -1 times -1 times -1 is -1. There were 3 negative signs in that problem. There was 1 negative sign in the first one I gave. Anytime we have an example and there is an odd number of negative signs with multiplying, the answer is always negative. Charles. Yeah, because if you multiply and there's 2 negatives, the answer is positive. It's, yep. Correct. You could think of it that way, or you can just think of it as if there's an odd number of negative signs, negative. Even number of negative signs, positive. You can think of it either way. Mary. Yeah, I agree with that. I do. Emma M. Yes, yes. And we're going to do that. Okay, number 2. If you're multiplying and there's an even number of negative signs, the answer is positive. So rule number 2. There's an even number of negative signs. The answer is positive. So for example, -2 times -2 is 4. So if there's 2 negative signs, the answer is positive. If there's 4 negative signs, the answer is positive. If there's 6, the answer is positive. I can keep going. Adam. Well, you're in a multiplication or division problem, you're not going to have minus. You're multiplying or dividing. Correct. Correct. But the rules for adding and subtracting are completely different from multiplying and dividing. So that doesn't apply. But to say something else about that, Adam, yes, a minus sign or a negative sign are always the same thing. But when you're multiplying and dividing, you're not subtracting. You with me on that? Okay. So it tends to be a little sticky there. Justin. Yeah. Yes. Okay, third rule, I know this is going to be really difficult. Anything times 0 is 0. Is that not impossible? Oh man, we're in big trouble, right? No one knew that, right? Oh man. Anything times 0 is 0. So, sorry, you can tell your parents accelerated math is getting too easy now. We're learning anything times 0 is 0. In other words, it's not positive, it's not negative. It's 0. Jeremy. Yeah. Yeah, that's not a good idea. Yeah. Well, actually, that would get you out of debt, but that's not reality if you did that. Briar. Yep. 0 is the neutral number. Emma M? No. No. Anything times 0 is 0. Okay, so make sure you have these 3 rules down. 1, 2, 3. Doug, is this on the rolls? Question on the rolls? Okay, hold that thought then. Okay, let's do some examples and then we'll go over division. Okay, find each product. Now this is also extremely difficult. Ready? What's 2 times 7? Let's start with that. Emma H. Good job. Now, there's 2 negatives in front. Is that an even number of negatives or an odd number of negatives? This is also difficult. Alyssa? Good, it's even. So is your answer positive or negative? Good. So I'm going to put a plus sign in front to emphasize that. You don't need to. There's an even number of negatives. It's positive. These rules are easier than the addition and subtraction. All right, -2 times 3.5 times -4. OOO rules tells us to multiply from left to right. So Charles, I want you to first tell us what's 2 times 3.5. Good. There's an odd number of negative signs. So is that 7 positive or negative? Well, we're going to do one. OOO tells us to do one thing at a time. So we're going to do one thing at a time on this one. Good. And then I'm going to drop down the -4. So if there's 3 terms, follow order of operations, do one thing at a time. All right, Jeremy, what's 7 times 4?
7 times 4, 48.
Good. Alyssa, there's 2 negative signs. Is that odd or even? Good. So should the answer be positive or negative? Good job. So the answer is a positive 28. Annalise. Nope. No, you can do that. You can wait to the very end. That's kind of like what Charles said. If you want to wait to the very end, that's fine. I'm just trying to stick with our order of operations. No, no, not with multiplying. No. Charles, you okay? Yeah. That's fine. And let's do the next one. Let's do the next one like that so you guys understand what we're talking about. Okay, so letter C. We have 1/4 times 12. So I'm going to ignore the negatives for now. What's 1/4 of 12? Justin? Say that again. Good, 3. So then let's drop down the other 3. We're going to ignore the negatives for now. Emma H, 3 times 3 is? Good. Now going back to the original problem. How many negative signs are in the original problem? Zach? Good. Is that an odd number or an even number? So should the answer be positive or negative? Good. So there is the example of what Annalise and Charles were referring to. You're more than welcome to wait to the end. You're going to get the same answer. That does not apply to addition and subtraction, only multiplication and division. Annalise. That means the same thing. Of means multiplication in math. Do you know how to multiply 1/4 times 12? Okay, so 1/4 times 12, if you put a 1, multiply, right, across the top, across the bottom. And you get 12 over 4, which is 3. You're welcome. Okay, I want you guys, Adam. Go ahead. Yes. No, you're thinking of something different. When you're multiplying fractions, and this is also chapter 5, multiply across the top, across the bottom. Good question. Emma M. Go ahead. That, right, and that's what Adam's talking about. That only works if there's ones on the opposite sides. Okay, that's why I said don't do that, because there's not always going to be ones on both sides. The numerator and then denominator of the other. Okay, I want you guys to try D and E. Put your pencil down when you're done. Try D and E. Put your pencil down when you're done. And if you like to wait to the end to determine if it's positive or negative, that's fine with me. Okay, Matt, what did you get for letter D? Positive or negative? Good. How did you know it was positive? Good job. Good job. There's an even number of negative signs, so positive. Letter E, Sean. How do you know it's negative? Good job. There's an odd number of negative signs. Any questions on D or E? Okay. Next part, we have, well, we're going to wait for that. Okay, the next property is called the inverse property of multiplication. So here's what this says. The product of a non-zero number and its multiplicative inverse is 1. I will explain what that big word means. The product of a non-zero number and its multiplicative inverse is 1. So the product of a non-zero number and its multiplicative inverse is 1. Donatus, do you know what that means? Product. You just subtracted. So say that again with using product. Yep. No, you were closer the first time. You said something a little bit different. Briar, do you know what that means? Nope. No, it's saying is 1. So the product of a non-zero number and its multiplicative inverse is equal to 1. Adam?
Negative 8 times 8.
Nope, because that's not 1. Negative 8 times 8 is not 1. But you're getting there, Mary. Change that to a product. Negative 8 times, how can you make that a product? Instead of divided by, keep, change, flip. No. Annalise?
8 times 1.
Nope, because that's not equal to 1. All right, here's what it is. 8 times 1 over 8 equals 1. Mary? Okay, so you don't need to write this down. Just write down the thing with numbers. 8 times 1 over 8 equals 1. Any number, so 8 is the number, times its multiplicative inverse. Ready? Flip it. A multiplicative inverse is when you flip a number. 1/8 is the multiplicative inverse of 8. When you multiply these together, the product is always 1. You guys were getting there. I put a 1 on the bottom so that you would remember 8 times 1 is 8. 1 times 8 is 8. 8 divided by 8 is 1. Mary?
So it's basically the number times its reciprocal.
Yep. Now, multiplicative inverse means basically the same thing as reciprocal. You flip a number. So if you multiply a number by its reciprocal or its multiplicative inverse, you always get 1. Annalise, did you? Yep. So what is the multiplicative inverse or reciprocal of negative 27? Doug? Good. Negative 1/27. On a fraction, it does not matter where you put the negative. That negative sign just means that entire fraction is negative. I don't care if you put it in the top or on the bottom. It just means that whole number is negative. What is the multiplicative inverse of negative 8, which also means what is the reciprocal? Matt? Good. Negative 1/8. What is the multiplicative inverse, Adam, of letter C? Yeah. I know, because I don't like how the fraction's written. I don't like that it's written like that. Go ahead. Good job. So the multiplicative inverse is negative 7/4. I just rewrote the fraction this morning because I like the fraction to be written as a fraction instead of what it looks like in the note packet. That's the only reason. What is the multiplicative inverse of 5/3? Alyssa, great job. So multiplicative inverse or reciprocal means the exact same thing. All you do is flip a number. It does not matter where you put the negative sign. Annalise.
So a negative number is just a negative fraction reciprocal.
When you flip it, yeah.
And then
No. You don't, this part has nothing to do with those rolls. If it's negative, you just flip it and keep the negative where it was. So like, here's an example. Let's say 1 over -3, you had to find the multiplicative reciprocal to, it would be -3. Just flip it. This helps us with division. Emma M? Yep. Same thing. They just use different words in your book. Doug? That cannot be an integer. It's a rational number, okay, because it's an improper fraction. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's go to quotient. Matt, do you have a question on? Yeah. Yeah, because you could change it to an improper fraction and then find it. Okay, quotient. The quotient of two real numbers with the same sign is positive. So I'm on the next page of your notes. So if you're dividing and you have the same sign, the answer is always positive. You could also say here, even number of negative signs. So either this, if you have the same sign, it's positive, or if there's an even number of negative signs, the answer is positive. So what do you think the second one's going to be? The quotient of two real numbers with different signs, Sean. Good job, is negative. So different signs, the quotient's negative. Can also say there's an odd number of negative signs. The answer is always negative. Donatus. Because you cannot have 0 in the denominator of a fraction. If you do, it's an undefined function. Yeah, but you can't have 0. 0 divided by 0 is not 0. It's undefined. That's why it says that. Okay? Annalise? You mean for multiplication? Yep. Yeah. Same thing. Well, you do, because if there's more than two numbers that you're dividing, you could be dividing 4 numbers. You need to remember, if there's an odd number of negative signs, your answer is always negative. If there's an even number of negative signs, the answer is always positive. These are the same rules as multiplication. Okay? The last one is 0. Quotient of 0 and any non-zero number is 0. Doug, hold that thought, okay? Okay, just hold that for now. Does everyone, any other questions on the rules? Same as multiplication. They just like to word them a little bit differently. Okay, what is -64 divided by -4? What do you think? This isn't hard either. -64 divided by -4. Jeremy. Nope. Okay, that's okay. Emma H. Okay, why is it positive? Good job. It's positive because you're dividing. There's an even number of negative signs. You could also say there's 2 and they're the same. Annalise? I'm getting to that. Don't worry about that yet. Emma, go ahead. Yeah, is everyone okay on letter A? Okay, letter B. Go ahead, Emma M. Good. Why is it negative? Good job. Okay, so I'm going to do one more. This huge thing at the top, keep, change, flip, refers to any of the problems with fractions. Some of you heard this in elementary school. Keep, change, flip. When you're dividing fractions, the same rules apply with the positives and negatives. If there's an even number of negative signs, your answer is positive. An odd number of negative signs, your answer is negative. Here's what keep, change, flip means. Rewrite the first fraction as it appears. So keep the first number, rewrite it. Change division to multiplication. So change means change division to multiplication. Take the multiplicative inverse or reciprocal of the second number. That's why I say flip the second number. Take the multiplicative inverse or reciprocal. What's the reciprocal or multiplicative inverse of 3/10, Annalise? Good job. That's what keep, change, flip means. Yep, so now we multiply across the top, across the bottom, applying the rules of whether it's a positive or a negative. Mary, if we multiply across the top, across the bottom, what's our product? Over. Good. Go for it. Good. And should it be negative or positive? Good. Negative 1 1/4. Or what's the improper fraction? Sean? Nope. Well, yeah, no. Improper fraction. Negative. Good, -5/4. You can keep your answer however you want. This keep, change, flip thing, we really get into this in chapter 5. I just figured I would show it to you since we had time today. The answer is negative here because there's an odd number of negative signs. Emma M. I want you to start simplifying, yes. Now, will I take off since we're in chapter 1? No, but as we move on in chapters, I will. Annalise? Yep. Yep. Okay, I need everyone to open up your homework packet to 1.7. We'll finish up those notes on Monday because I do want to finish them. Okay, I do want you to do all of them and no calculator. Yep, so 1.7, just so you guys remember there's a back, there's 26 questions. Now, I will say this again, there are some more notes in 1.7 that I just made a little bit more difficult that I'm going to finish Monday with you. And then maybe we'll practice this a little bit more. We'll see how the homework goes. I also want to see how you did on your homework assignments last night. So maybe we need to spend more time on that Monday. I'll let you guys know when you get to class. So practice 1.7 is due Monday, up through 26. Any questions? No calculator. Okay, have a great weekend. Go ahead and get packed up. Thank you for saying that.